okay, we kind of like fine, I'm sorry, I was just going through something. And I think for me that's important. And I think once people are aware of their emotions and like the small triggers they have, or you might have had a bad day and what that do to you and how that affects your interaction with people, I think people start have better genuine support systems and know, okay, fine, you know, someone is going through something. How do I support? How do I hold space to even, you know, allow someone to go through that and not, I think, personally feel attacked by it or project, or feel like it's this, you know, suffering Olympics that people do. Like, oh, your day was bad. Oh, no, I got fired today. Oh, you got fired. I got fired and lost my house. So we get into this, we're competing, who's been hurt the most. So I think, yeah, I think we're just trying to get that conversation going. How do we support? How do we uplift each other, actually? Yeah. So I think that sums it all. I could talk all day, but yeah, that's for me for now.
Right. That's great. Thank you very much, One, for that clear introduction. So as One rightly said, this session is going to be about anxiety mainly because I suffer from general anxiety disorder. I was diagnosed with it about 3 years ago, and I have been living with it much longer than that. I don't know the questions Benoit is going to ask yet, so I'm going to add her. Hope she doesn't like drag my edges.
But you hold your thing. You'll be fine.
Let her know that I'm very, very nervous right now, and I'm a little bit anxious, and my stomach is in knots. So please be nice to me. Thank you.
We'll be nice. See you soon.
We'll get back to you soon, One.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Okay, so I'm adding Benoit now, and so that we can get the session started. It shouldn't last very long. We're hoping to be done within about 20 minutes or so. Hello. I see you going ahead.
Hi, Hetty. I don't see myself. I don't know why.
Oh,
but I'm here.
I can see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think both you and One have actually made my work very easy for me. So, and we don't have a lot of time, so we're just going to dig right in. But before I start, I'd like to remind everybody that we uploaded an article today on the FemInStyle website written by Candice. So please do go check it out. It's about women dealing with mental health issues at the workplace. Go check it out, take a read, please leave comments. So Hetty, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
You look great.
Thank you. I was so hungry earlier, so I had to go to Tesco to buy a pretzel. So that
Oh my God.
I feel the pretzel.
I hope it works. You look great. I actually had to run from the salon to come home to, just fix myself up for this. So I think we both did great putting ourselves together and coming here for this show today. Yeah. So Hetty, you already mentioned you got diagnosed 3 years ago. Before then, you must have felt something for you to decide to seek help or to get diagnosed. At what point did you realize that, no, I have an issue, I'm struggling with something, I need to get help? At what point did that happen? How was it? How did it feel? What made you realize that, no, there's something wrong?
So it's quite interesting actually, because I on some level felt that there was something wrong, because I'm quite high strung as a person. I'm one of those people, you know, when people say that they don't take themselves seriously or they don't take life seriously, I don't understand. Like I take things very, very seriously, and so there's always been things that I've struggled with that I didn't quite understand, couldn't put my finger on. And even though I've had therapy several times in the past, it's never really registered that I was in this kind of reactions to certain situations based on past experiences, perhaps. So for me, in 2017, when I returned from Ghana, which was around end of October-ish, I was not happy. When I came back, for some reason, I was very, very unhappy. Again, I put it down to, like, you know, I've been in Ghana for 6 months and I've just come to UK. It's cold, it's a bit shit. So,
Yeah.
but an incident took place early late November in 2017, and I had a complete meltdown. Like I had never had that kind of experience before. I had a complete meltdown. I was screaming for a while, and then the next minute I was just on the floor, like I'd curled myself up into a ball, and I must have stayed in that position for probably like 3 or 4 hours, and I wasn't speaking. Like, and my ex-husband, who was my husband then, got a bit worried, and so we decided that I was to go and see someone about it. So we did a bit of an internet search about my symptoms, and it was pointing to anxiety. But you know what they say: don't trust the internet. Or don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Google can scare you.
So yeah, the main incident was that, and I didn't even know that it was a panic attack at that moment when it was happening.
Yeah.
I just thought that my heart was about to beat my chest, that I was gonna die. I felt sick. My stomach was like squeezing itself like this, really tight. And like I really felt like I was going to die. I'm not even like, I thought this is the end. This is how I go out.
Yeah.
And so when I went to see someone, and we went through a checklist of my symptoms, and the diagnosis was that I had general anxiety disorder. So yeah, that is basically the story about how I found out what was wrong.
Yeah, I'm so glad you agreed to seek help. I was actually going to ask you how it feels like when you say that, okay, you are having an anxiety attack, or yes, you are in that state, how it feels like. So you've mentioned a few, aside feeling like your heart is literally jumping out of your chest, your stomach squeezing. How does it feel like? Can you describe the feeling?
I mean, generally, on a normal day, my mind is always kind of like in a position where it's always examining the worst case scenario. So when I have an anxiety attack, it's like that happening 100 times in one go. So like everything, all the positives disappear, and all I can see are the negatives. Like, this is bad, and then I start to blame myself for feeling the way that I'm feeling. So a lot of the way that my anxiety manifests is to do with self-blame and impatience with myself as well, because I keep telling myself that this is nothing, you need to stop it, and that makes it worse. So apart from my heart feeling like it's going to burst out of my chest, my stomach also goes in really, really, really tight knots. Sometimes I get diarrhea. What also happens is that sometimes my palms sweat a bit, and generally that my heart rate just, how to describe it. It's, my heart is beating so fast. If you're standing next to me, you'll probably hear it. And those are the main ways in which the anxiety manifests.
A few days ago, you posted on Facebook about how difficult it is to have this condition and then run a business and then go to school and then also have a job. So you're juggling all these and still coping with this condition. How is it like? I know it makes it difficult, but I mean, how are you able to do that, and in what ways does it weigh you? Do you think it weighs you? If it does, in what way?
Well, sometimes it does weigh me. I think that also I'm quite a self-aware person, and so and I've lived with this for so long that I've learned what triggers me and what doesn't. So that gives me the opportunity to manage it. It doesn't always work. Just because you know how to manage your condition doesn't mean that it will always work. But for sometimes I am able to quickly recognize the trigger and try and mitigate the effect. But running or starting to run a business, an organization, whilst juggling full-time work and uni as well, it's definitely like, it's difficult. It's difficult. For me, a lot of the time I'm second guessing myself, not because I feel like I'm not good enough, but because my brain is wired in such a way that it's always calculating the worst case scenario. So that makes it very, very difficult. And so when something doesn't go my way or how I envisioned it to be, I'm immediately taken to the point where I'm like, should I be doing this? Like, I'm not good enough. I shouldn't be doing this. This is not going to work. Why am I doing this? Why am I wasting my time? So it's like a bit manic in that sense.
Yeah.
And so I have to then remind myself to take a deep breath, take 5 deep breaths, count in a very, very to calm myself down. I usually do like a count from like 100 to 0, but not like 199, 98. No, I just do like random
numbers. Yeah.
So that my brain registered that something is not right, and it just fixes itself and calms down. And I have this really weird thing as well, where like a random old, especially old high life songs that I would not normally remember, will just start playing in my head on repeat until I can't. Again, always work, but these are the sort of ways in which I cope with work, school, and also FemInStyle Africa.
Yeah. Is Kenata Sweetie Pie part of the list of songs that comes to mind?
Oh no, Kenata Sweetie Pie is just my anthem. You know, because
right.
I'm so cute, and I feel like even though
because I know you love the song.
So yeah. Doesn't play my bad moments, no. But you know what? I know what really helps me. I think I've talked about this on Facebook before in the past. When I discovered Solange's A Seat at the Table, right? That album is probably one of my favorite albums of all time because it's literally like my anxiety playlist. Sort of, and I think it's because it's not just the music. There's after each song, there's someone talking about something, you know, there's a lot of self-love involved. There's a lot about being patient with yourself and understanding that you can't do it all. It's okay to be angry and all of that. Lil Wayne rapping about committing suicide, attempting to commit suicide and it not working and all of that. So it's sort of like put things in perspective for me, and it really calms me down. So that is possibly the album I play every time I've had a panic attack.
That's great. So before we proceed, I would like to tell everybody listening, please, if you listened to Hetty's symptoms, please don't conclude that you have anxiety. You need to speak with a professional. Don't conclude on anything from this interview. What you'd have to learn is her experience and the fact that she's able to cope with it and she's still able to live a very normal, productive life, right? So, Hetty, you, even before you got diagnosed and after you got diagnosed, did you feel comfortable enough to talk to anybody about it? Have you spoken to anyone aside your ex-husband and your doctor? And how easy is it to speak to people about it?
I think
for you?
I've always been the type of person that doesn't like to suffer in silence. And because I spent probably about 6 or 7 years in my 20s in therapy for other unrelated traumas, I learned very, very early on that sharing your burden is one way of lessening it. So I've talked my anxiety and my struggles a lot, especially on Facebook. I'm not really like, I don't do that a lot on Instagram, but on Facebook I talk about it a lot. Sometimes when I'm struggling with something, I make a post about it, and you get people sending you messages and stuff like that. So for me, I've never felt any difficulty in discussing it with people or even telling people that the day that I got my my diagnosis, I was in a group with other women on WhatsApp, and when I came back home, I told them, like, just come from the doctors and I've been diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. And because keeping it in my head, just one way where my mind would just like spin it round and round and round and round and make it worse than it is, it's bad. But it's mainly bad because your mind is not letting it go. So once you're able to talk to people about it, if the people are supportive, it's not always going to be people that are supportive or people that even understand. People that will pretend they understand, but they don't. And they will actually add to your triggers. But that's a conversation another day. But for the most part, my friends and my family members have been supportive in understanding that these are things that I've been struggling with, and you know, sometimes I can be an ally because of that. So yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned sometimes people try to say they understand, but actually they don't even understand. In sharing your experiences or your struggle, do you think you've found yourself in either an organized or unorganized group of supportive people or people who are also feeling the same or going through the same way? Have you been able to, find yourself in a situation where somebody would say, okay, yeah, I also go through this, let's talk to each other about this? Have you been able to form that group? I mean, it doesn't have to be organized, but do you think you've kind of sharing your experience, built a group like that, like more like a support group or a solidarity group of some sort, even if it's not really organized or, yeah.
I wouldn't call it a group or a support group per se, but there are a couple of people that I speak to on a regular basis who have the same challenges as me, and we do encourage each other and talk about our symptoms and what we have done or what we think can be done to help a particular type of anxiety trigger. So whilst there are people that share their experiences with you, and you guys draw support from, and you know, from time to time you may or they might reach out to you. I wouldn't say I have like a group of people, men or women, that I speak to, or we have this kind of like support group where we talk to about it. I would like to, but also I'm very much aware that sometimes being in such an environment in itself can be triggering.
Yeah, I know that from experience. It's very triggering. Let's go back to your work life, your professional life. Has having general anxiety disorder affected your work in any way? Has it put you in trouble with any work colleagues, with any lecturer, with your supervisor, with any group of people you've worked with professionally?
For the most part,
or maybe affected your work output in general?
My work output definitely, especially during COVID, where like we've all been. I've been working from home since mid-March, and I'm going to work from home probably end of March next year. So that's like a whole year of working from home. So being having that idea that like everything is just going to the I don't want to use a swear word, but the only thing I can think of is shit. Everything's gone to shit.
Yeah.
It makes you really, so sometimes, even though you know that your bedroom is over there and your office is there, like literally like way, getting out of bed and feeling having the motivation to actually go and sit down and do your work is very, very hard. And there has been times when I've sat at my desk for like probably like 3 or 4 hours and not even touch my keyboard, because I'm in a space where I physically cannot even move. And so that affects my output. But I also then get into this mode where I want to do 2 million things at once. So then that compensates for it in the end, because even though I'll have like work that has piled up, I'll then have the energy to just get it all done and get it out of the way before I get into trouble. In terms of actually getting into trouble at work, or even at uni. With uni, no. Generally, because my lectures are part-time as well, and I used to go in the evening. So by the time I would leave work and get to lectures, I'd be already in a relaxed mood. But I think that because I'm aware of my triggers, and also because I know quite a bit about mental health, it's very easy to identify when someone is trying to do things like gaslight you or whatever. And people do that in a work environment a lot. And I will not stand for it. So that has
I know you won't.
some sort of, not trouble per se, but it's probably like there are a couple of my colleagues that who dislike me because I will not let them speak to me or treat me a certain way. I'll be like, no, you're gaslighting me. This is not how it happened. You're not going to make me doubt my own mind when I know that this and this is what you did.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would say I'm not their favorite person. But at the end of the day, it helps me do my work better and it helps me relate to my colleagues better if they are aware there are certain things that they do that they shouldn't do.
Yeah. How supportive would you say your work environment has been with regards to your condition?
I think that places that I've worked, because when I've probably worked in 3 different places now since I was diagnosed, they've been very supportive. They've been okay with me taking time off if I need to take time off. If I have doctor's appointments, they're quite supportive of that. Most companies in England have employee benefits where you get to speak to a counselor anonymously. Your benefits if you need to talk to someone. And so, I mean, in general, companies here are very much supportive when it comes to mental health issues anyway, or companies that I've worked with in the past and presently. So in terms of actually getting support, I've never felt that I'm going to lose my job because of this condition. So let me put it.
Yeah, that's great. I'm also very glad you've mentioned that companies there, that is in the UK, our audience is largely African women living in Africa. From your experience, from your interactions with other African women, with your friends who are not in the UK but living on the continent and all of that, from your personal assessment of your interactions or conversations with them, how do you gauge how tolerant or supportive the working environment in Africa generally is towards women with mental health issues?
First of all, we have to actually look at mental health issues in the context of African countries. I can only speak to the context of Ghana. Mental health is seen as a taboo topic. It's either like, there is no middle ground. It's either you're mad and trained or walking down the street naked, or people don't think there's anything wrong with you. I know that there's been a lot going on with mental health awareness in Ghana over the last few years, but even that largely like concentrated in middle class, right? So for companies to actually be supportive of their employees who go through one mental challenge or another, they have to be open to have those conversations about mental health. So for me, I feel like that is where we need to focus. The opening up the conversation, going into these workspaces and saying to these people that, listen, women go through anxiety, women go through postpartum depression, women go through this, women go through, so like it's a layered approach that we are not taking, or we're not ready for that conversation here, which is sad, because we should be able to where we're not looking to take people who have mental challenges to pastors for them to pray the devil out of them. We're not dismissing people. Like there are Ghanaians that I have spoken to about my mental health issues, and they've been very, very dismissive of it. Someone even told me that I look.
Not surprising.
I'm like, or how can you have anxiety and you look this beautiful? You know, so it's like, and that automatically draws like a wall. It draws up a wall. Like when someone says that to you, you're not able to continue to engage them on that topic. And that really, like, people need to be aware that these things are real. It's not the white people's disease. It affects everyone, black, white, chocolate, whatever. It's real and it's out there. And there's many more people who suffer from these kind of mental health issues than we'd like to think. So the conversation opening up the conversation, making it less of a taboo, taking away the stigma of having mental health issues.
Yeah. Talking about people saying like, how can you have anxiety and be fair looking like this? I've met women who know that they probably have mental health issues. They have anxiety, maybe depression of some sort, and they know they have to seek help. But all the things they say deters them from going. These people at the psychiatric hospital, they give them medications and it bloats them up, it makes them fat. I don't want to go see a psychiatrist who will give me these drugs and I'll end up being fat and ugly and all of that. When you got diagnosed, were you put on any kind of medication, and has it in any way bloated you? You don't look bloated, but I mean, just for emphasis.
To be honest, when I first got diagnosed, I was put on Xanax for a bit. It wasn't for a very long. It was just so I could manage it for a while, whilst I also got to terms with it. But there were some exercises that I had to do. They're quite involved exercises, and I think it probably took me about 2 months to complete them. So those exercises really, really helped, and I think that some of them can be found online. I'm not 100% sure. Again, don't take my advice and go online and look for anxiety.
Yeah.
Go and see a qualified doctor who deals with mental health issues for them to diagnose you properly. But I was on medication for about three months at most. And then again, I found different ways of managing the anxiety. So I didn't really feel the need to go on medication. But then also, I'm the type of person, it's not because I'll get bloated or whatever. I don't even think I'm the type of person that generally does not like taking medicine. I look for alternative means of making myself feel better. So I had to learn a lot. Like in UK, again, there's something that GPs prescribe, which is like an outdoorsy kind of way to get people to feel better. It's usually prescribed for people that are much older and are isolated. Maybe they live alone. Their family don't live with them. But GPs can recommend that, maybe join a nature walk group, or a gardening group or things like that. And even if you don't want to join a group, you just kind of like change your lifestyle around a little bit. And all of these things can help you cope with having mental health issues. Even there are days where I'm indoors for like a whole week and I feel really, really, really bad. The moment I step outside, go for a 10-20 minute walk, I start to feel better. So these are the ways in which I've been able to manage. If you need medication, go on it. It doesn't matter if you're going to get bloated. You need to be well. Just because I don't take medication and I'm not bloated, it doesn't mean that I don't cope with alcohol, which is bad for you. I'd rather you take the medication than become an alcoholic.
I thought we weren't going to talk about alcohol.
I wasn't. See, you just
what happened?
You just drew me in there.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm really glad you've addressed the medication issue, because really, if you are going to choose getting bloated, if you are going to choose trying not to get bloated over getting your mental health on track, then that's a problem. And like Hetty mentioned, there's always a way of getting medication and still staying in shape if you are dedicated. So our time is actually even up, but I'm just going to ask you this last very wrap-up question. You've already given out a lot of advice. What would you say to African women, especially working class women, mothers experiencing postpartum depression, menstruating women dealing with pre and post menstrual disorders, and all of that? What's your advice?
I think that my main advice would be that it doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter how you're feeling. One of the main things that you need to acknowledge for yourself is that those feelings, no matter how small, how minute, those feelings are valid. right? So you need to acknowledge those feelings. You need to sit down with those feelings and examine them and find out why you're having those feelings and how best you can deal with them. But you have to accept that you're feeling that, and that feeling is a part of you and it's valid. Without you accepting that, you're never going to take getting help seriously. You're always going to reject the idea that you should get help. You would think that it's something that makes you weak, and it doesn't. Not getting help makes you weak. If we think that the statistics of suicide is higher in men because men are less likely to seek help, that should point you to that getting help isn't something that makes you weak. It's the strongest, most important decision you can make for yourself as a woman, to get help. And you need, if you talk to people. I don't buy into that idea that you should only talk to God. That is bullshit. Talk to your friends. Just make sure that you have good friends. And even if they're not good friends and they go and they gossip about you, about the things that you told them in confidence, it's not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on their character and the fact that they weren't brought up well. It's got nothing to do with you. So talk to your friends. Talk to people
they weren't brought up well.
No.
Sorry.
Talk to your friends. Talk to us. If you must talk to your make sure your Osofumame has sense, because some of them don't. They will tell you to pray, which again, it can help you to bring you some comfort in the moment, but it's not a healing process. It's a wound, but you have to change that plaster. So talk to people, go and see a psychologist, go to your hospital and go and see a psychologist and speak to them about how you're feeling, and they will help you. They are there to help you. It's their job to help you, so they will help you. Just don't sit with that feeling and keep it inside yourself and feel isolated. You are not alone. You really aren't. Sometimes you think that you're the only person going through something, and then you find out that no, you're not. Not at all. So you are never alone. There's always someone out there who's going through the same thing as you, and they'll be more than willing to help. So speak to people. Be vocal about your struggles. It doesn't make you an attention seeker. I mean, who is on social media and isn't seeking attention? Come on. Right? So talking about your issues on social media, even doing that is in itself therapeutic. Right? Because you've taken the thing that is in your head and it's putting all that pressure in your head. You've taken it out of your head and you've put it out there. So in that way, you've controlled it. So just speak to people, talk about your struggles, and go and get help.
Okay.
That's the main thing I tell people to do.
Okay. I'm going to read some of the comments here, and then I'll probably go for you and One to wrap up. Claudia says, I'm so glad you are talking about this. It is sad that some people's emotions are not understood and interpreted for the worst. One says, yes, Claudia, it's so sad, but it's glad to get the conversation started and keep on sustaining it. One says, yes, even in Botswana, mental health becomes a middle class thing for other people. Some say you even have demons. They want to pray for you. That's like almost everywhere now. Pastors are praying out mental health issues out of people in prayer camps, putting things in their heads and stamping on their stomachs and all of that. Ona says you don't look bloated. Kwesi Craven has a question. He says, how has relationship been with opposite sex as a mental health staff, and how did she go about it? Very unsurprising question.
I was hoping a question like that would not come up. But I will answer it.
I'm not surprised.
I'll try to be as honest as possible. For me, so far, it's been a mixed bag. There are people that I've been in relationships with who claim to understand my incapacities, and they worked actively to kind of like ensure that certain things happened that made me actually go further into my mind and my self-doubt, right? And there are people who have been supportive. I mean, I always say that it's when you start talking to someone, when you start getting to know someone, I always tell people straight up that I've got anxiety. And people always tell you that they understand. Unless you've seen me have a panic attack, or unless like I'm out with you in a public place and you've said something to me that is deeply upsetting, and I've completely shut down and not talked to you for 2 hours, and you're able to come out of that the next day and say that I understand, right? Because I will explain to you that this is a toxic trait of mine, but actually me trying to control my emotions. I shut down because sometimes people say things that are deeply upsetting and you need time to process it, and my mind just goes into like no,
Not now.
so until those kind of episodes have happened and someone has actually experienced them, they would not really truly understand. And a lot of the time people experience that and they think that you're just being a bitch, no matter that you explained to them before. And so then they don't really understand. But to be honest, I haven't dated that many people since 2017, let's be honest. the last I had ended in tears, and that really like triggered my, because of the way the whole thing went about. There was a lot of gaslighting and emotional abuse, very subtle, so I couldn't identify it until it got to a point where it was too late. So I mean, I'm sure that there's someone out there who would be, you know, completely at ease and understanding of my mental health issues. And I think that it's also important for people to have boundaries, even if they understand that they have to have boundaries, and they have to tell you the things that they are absolutely not going to tolerate, despite that you've got these challenges, because that also informs you on your own behavior, right? And if you're dating someone with mental health, this is something important I was going to mention. If you're dating someone with anxiety and they tell you that they're anxious, please don't tell them not to be anxious. We know we shouldn't be anxious. That is not the point. I'm very much aware that I am overreacting. It's like watching a movie with myself in it. I know I'm overreacting. I can't help it. Just be supportive. In fact, just keep quiet and let me go mad. When I'm done, I will apologize. Just don't ask me not to be anxious or there's nothing to worry about. These are very, very flippant ways of dismissing a real issue. Because believe me, people tell me that there's nothing to worry about. Every single voice in my head has told me that, and my head is still not listening. So just be supportive. There's lots of information online on how you can support someone with mental health issues in a relationship. So read on it and, you know, find a way to support your partner or someone that you're interested in who suffers from these issues. Trust me, we're amazing people. It's just that we have this challenge. It's a challenge. It's like having a learning difficulty or whatever. It's a challenge. It's not. It doesn't make you. It's a part of you, but it doesn't make you.
Yeah, it's a part of you. Doesn't make it. That's a very powerful statement. So Kwesi Craig, I hope your question is answered. I have a feeling you are waiting in line to be that person who will probably understand his situation. I wish you all the best. But
it's important. Like when you stand on your bank account, you see our future.
Oh no! Kwesi Craig, I hope you got the hint, right? Please do self-assessment before you shoot your shot. You're allowed to shoot your shot, but please make sure that you're a very, very viable candidate. And analyzing your account is the very first step. So check your bank account. I'm going to
articles and like all our pages and literally all our posts from the day we started posting. Comments on each one of them. It's a huge task, but you have.
So you have your job really cut out for you. You don't even have to struggle to figure things out. I'm going to be leaving. I don't know if One will come back on, so I'm going to be leaving. But before I leave, Hetty, thank you so much. You made it look so easy talking about this, but it's really not an easy thing to be this open about. So thank you for agreeing to do this and for opening up. I'm sure a lot of people will learn from your experience. Before I go, I'd like to tell every Black African woman out there that mental health issues are very common. Like Hetty said, you are not alone. Women go through very difficult issues that makes us very prone to mental health issues. You have your premenstrual disorders, you have your postmenstrual disorders. Even those who don't really have these disorders, haven't been diagnosed, have very peculiar issues when they are ovulating that makes them very trigger very easily. There are so many things that trigger women very easily and gets us in our feels and sometimes even gets us to the very apex of mental health issues. So if you're experiencing any of that, don't feel like you're crazy. You're not crazy. You're not alone. Please do seek help. Google is not your doctor. Hetty is not your doctor.
Is it?
Go seek
No.
help. Yeah, yeah, not at all. And remember that you can always speak about it. There's no shame in speaking about your challenge. So I'm going to leave you, Hetty. Thank you for having me. Like Hetty said, FemInStyle is up and running. There's so many interesting articles. Our Facebook is live, Twitter is live, Instagram is live. You're watching it now. Please do follow, like, and get interactive with all the very engaging content that's put out here. So I'm out now. Honor, please do take over. Bye, ladies. Have fun.
Thank you so much. Hi to our 4 viewers that are left.
Am I live? Please, you need to see my eyebrows. They're participating today.
I can see. Your ancestors are resting today.
My village people are resting today. That's the important thing. My village people are resting. So, even my... Oh.
Thank you to Fanid for watching. I'm grateful.
Yeah. How was that? You said, oh, I'm anxious, I'm this, but then you make it look easy.
Seriously, I had to, I was like, yeah, I had to, my stomach was like, my stomach was doing some somersaults earlier, but it's okay.
You're alive. That's all that matters. You're alive.
But it was a good thing that I went out and got that pretzel because I probably would have thrown up.
No, that's marketing we don't want. Please, the CEO throwing up on a live. Oh,
you know,
oh. That's premium tears.
That's premium tears. But not by that much.
No, that's a bit too much.
Yeah, but it was really good. I felt really good talking about it. I hope that it inspires at least one woman to seek help if she's going through any of these challenges. I know that it's very difficult for us, especially as Black people, to even think about mental health issues and how it affects us. But there's so many things that happen to us that we don't really even think about in those kind of terms. There's things that happen to us in our childhood that really informs the way that we behave as adults, and we don't look at things that way or even think about them that way. But all of these are real issues, and they happen.
And I think for me, it's I hope we can just spark a conversation, because I think when we think about contextualizing it to the the African context, and when people tell you that you have demons and I want to pray for you, I'm just like, it's like premium tears. And also just the ways in which, when you look about how mental health is talked about, you look at what your parents went through that they never dealt with, that you get to inherit. So it's like generation just pressing a baton of mental health to one another, and some of the toxic narratives that you inherit from the ways in which, because the first institution that you're introduced to is the family. So what are the things that you've learned from your family, the ways in which they show you how to love yourself, how they love you as well, what they validate, what they don't validate as well. Because I know in my culture, if you're like, oh, you have anxiety, they're like, no, you have attitude problem, we're going to come call your uncles for them to come sort you out, right? So a few men are going to come and beat you up because then they don't understand the start of what exactly is mental health. It becomes a white people's problem, or like someone with like a upper middle class people, kids who are just throwing tantrums. And I think that becomes problematic. And also just because women are seen as these emotional people, when you're going through something, like, oh, is it that time of the month or whatever? So even if we get to a point where you realize I actually have a mental problem, you shy away from engaging with it, because there's already just this negative narrative about women and their bodies, and
that, exactly. I remember before I got my diagnosis, I went through a period where whenever I felt a certain way about something someone did or said to me, I'll ask myself, like I would do a calculation in my head to figure out where I was in my cycle.
Oh, you've suffered.
And then you tell yourself, no, there is no external factor as to why you're feeling this way. It's because this person is an asshole and they're being an asshole to you. So don't talk yourself out of feeling the things that you feel.
Yeah, and I think for me that's the same with our generation. I think looking at how we got introduced early to technology, so we never get to deal with a lot of the baggage or the things that we're supposed to be dealing with. So even if you have something fine, you're gonna focus on something, post on Facebook, so there's like friends that can validate you, or like trying to keep up with this lie or life. I think that's when people get shocked that people die or like people commit suicide. And it's like, but there is a problem that was never addressed. Are you there for your friend? Do you genuinely ask, are you okay?
Are you okay?
Do you hold that space for them not to be okay? And how are you supporting each other without making it like the suffering Olympics? Something like, oh, you have anxiety, I have bipolar, you have this. So it becomes that thing we're not supportive of each other, but we want to see who's suffering more. Like
more, exactly. And also sometimes I feel that we try too hard to actually show people that we understand, and sometimes you don't understand, and that is fine.
Yeah, and I think for me that's important to be like, you know what, I don't understand what you're going through, but I'm here. Like, just hold space. It's like when you get to a movement, when because of your privilege, you're not supposed to open your mouth and speak. Just be there to support. And I think people need to understand that, especially in a culture where everybody has to be like woke and know whatever. Sometimes you're like, I don't know, but I'll hold the space for you. I'll make the time. How can I support while you're going through this thing, right?
Yeah.
So
basically you've said it all, as the saying goes. You've hit the nail on the head.
I mean, that's why my name is on it, like the only one.
This has been really, for me, it's been quite an enlightening afternoon. In commemoration of World Mental Health Day, I think that is a very important topic, and I'm glad that we did this. And we hope that women will draw strength from this and get.
And I also hope we can keep it going, like beyond just the one day of mental health. Maybe like look at COVID, and I don't think by December we're gonna have any vaccine or something. So I think that means people are gonna be on lockdown. I don't think I'm gonna be able to go home, and it's been a year I haven't been home. So I think that will affect my mental health. So I think maybe getting on a webinar, looking at support services that people can reach out to. If you're in a particular area, stuck as an international student somewhere, or like stuck in the UK with no family, or wherever that you're stuck in the diaspora, or wherever, what are the support systems you can go to? What are the activities we can go to? And I hope we can put that together and be sharing in the next couple of weeks as we get into, the holiday mode and being around family.
Fantastic idea, definitely. We can't even do like an online hangout, but these are things that we can discuss later. So. Thank you very much. Thank you for being the moderator. Thank you, Beniwa, for your questions. Thank you for not taking it too easy, but not going too hard.
Yeah, she didn't fry you like plantain. She didn't fry you like plantain. She was just like, it's...
So thank you all those who watched, the ones that have left, and we hope that we do this more often and discuss different topics as well, and we hope that you watch. Please go on our website. We put up a new article to commemorate World Mental Health Day. It's about women's mental health in the office, as Ben was said earlier, and it's a fantastic article by Candice, and she really is really well researched. It tells the story of a person, so it's quite engaging. So please go and read it, comment, share, tell your friends, and thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a good weekend and take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.